Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for inspired conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, Mindset Elevation Coach, Intentional Living Guide, and publisher of the beloved Aspire magazine. Since 2006, Aspire has been inspiring, empowering, and supporting women to live their best lives. You can grab your free subscription, and yes, it's still free almost 20 years later, at subscribe2aspire.com. Today, we're going to be talking about how to heal emotional triggers at the root, where they live in the body. And my beautiful friends, if you've ever lashed out, numbed with substances, or shut down, haven't we all? And maybe even just completely gone cold and closed your heart, then you're in for an empowering conversation today, because there is a path to healing emotional triggers at the root and unveil a path to freedom, vitality, and authentic connection. With me today is Maria Toso. Maria is a Danish-born author, yoga teacher, trainer, and somatic healing coach with more than 15 years of experience teaching therapeutic yoga and trauma-informed practices. She's the creator of the Heal What Hurts method, an 8-step process that unites the physical and spiritual dimensions of healing to help people move beyond trauma and transform emotional triggers into pathways of growth. I am so happy that you're here, Maria.
I'm happy to be here, Linda. Thank you.
You're welcome. You have a new book called Heal What Hurts, How to Heal Emotional Triggers with my friends at Llewellyn. And I love to ask authors, what led you to write this book? Was it your own, something in your personal experience or witnessing transformation in your clients? What fueled the passion for writing this?
Well, twofold, really, both of what you just mentioned there. First of all, it's really the manual I wish I'd had like decades ago. There's nothing else out there that I'm aware of, and I really have been searching that was so the path I had to take, where I combined the somatic experience in the body, but also with the ever-present divine energy, call it God, angels that are always there to help us when we contract into our old pain. And that was really when I started healing. And then about 9 years ago, I started teaching the yoga teacher training program here in Minnesota at the Minnesota State Colleges. And I got to be privy to all my students' journals as they move through that process. And I guess that's when I really realized I am not alone in not knowing how to approach my emotional triggers. It's rampant, it's everywhere. And the hardest thing for my students to do is to sit still in meditation. It's a lot easier to do, acrobatic yoga poses than it is to sit still and be with what is in the body. So it also kind of grew organically out of how to guide both myself and my students into a space where those contracted places inside that are activated when we're triggered by something on the outside, how can we be with that in an empathic, non-dramatic, loving way where they actually start to release from the inside, not because someone else does it differently and not because we have a cocktail, but because we bring our own divine essence to those contracted, scared places, just like a mother would pick a scared kid out of a crib. That level of love and holding is what's necessary. And as we move into loving ourselves that deeply, we become capable of much greater, truer, more authentic love toward others. And I would even assert that we become closer to God, because God is loving presence in my sort of definition of God.
You were speaking my language, my friend. I really believe too that we can turn our wounds and our trauma into wisdom. Have you discovered that on your own journey? I was just having a conversation with another guest and we went deep to that. So I'd love to know your experience with that. Like, is that a belief you have that we can transmute those traumas?
Absolutely. And I think it actually becomes I think there is a saying, the light gets in where you're cracked open. So
Yeah.
those very places that we wish, and I did this for years, I would get on my knees at church and beg, just take this anxiety away from me, God. Like, why are you not taking this away? And I didn't realize that the real path was go in and hold it and be with it. And in that moment, I am with you. And you become one with God in that moment. And it's really even beyond transmuting, like, okay, here's the way to get rid of those things so that we can go and have our real life. No, our real life is to consistently, continuously holding the scared places inside of ourselves. So we transform every scared, contracted place within as it shows up in the body, which is why we need to be so present in the body, because that really is, and I write this in my book, that is the roadmap. That is the sacred roadmap to where exactly our, you could say, curriculum is, where our greatest pain and contracted places are, those places in us that don't yet know God's love because it's been so contracted and tight. You can think of a little kid that's so upset, it's completely contracted. And then a loving mother's arms, just like, I'm going to hold you, even if you kick and scream, because I love you so much, with this unconditional love. And slowly that kid starts to relax and fall into the mom, and the mom continues to love, and the kid opens up and releases and falls asleep, maybe.
And I could just feel that visual,
Yeah.
right? It's like God wrapping its arms around us when we're
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And I think we are in essence twofold beings. There is the part of us that is the higher self, the part of us that knows on some level that we are infinite, loving, divine beings. And then there's the part of us that is so identified with being a separate individual, scared. Will I survive? Will I have enough love and safety and sense of belonging in this world? It's not for sure. I might die. So we're bringing those together. So in that sense, it's also probably from my yogic background, the bringing together of the divine with the mortal. So the divine is healing the pain and the fear of being mortal. And in that sense, you sort of spiritualize our human individual experience, breath by breath, moment by moment, anytime we're willing to be present with the pain, which is why, and thank you for mentioning what I call the three outs in the book that you mentioned a moment ago, our tendency to lash out at someone else. If I feel upset, it's someone's fault and they need to do something different according to my manual so that I don't have to feel what I'm feeling. We just missed an opportunity to go in and hold it because we made it another being's responsibility, right? Or numbing out. And that's endless. I mean, I would say when I first started doing this work, I used to say, well, it's alcohol, it's sugar, it's shopping, it's porn. Now I think I would put on top of the list scrolling. That's probably one of the top ways of numbing out that seems so innocent, right? I just got upset, now I'm going to go scroll on my phone. And then the checking out that you also mentioned, where we become very intellectual. You could say we kind of go into the intellect, the left brain. We're no longer connected to the other in that sense of we're all one. We're not connected to our own body. And that can seem like, I used to envy people who could do that because I was such a lasher outer that I thought, well, it'd be so cool just to be all rational and intellectual. But I wonder if that might even be one of the more painful states because you're so cut off from your own somatic experience in your body. And when we can recognize that none of those outs will really heal the contracted knot inside the body, then we can start doing the tender, tender work of coming in. And that's what I think the path is for all of us, no matter what the trigger is. The trigger could be that something that shows up in relationships, that's, kind of the number one place, but it could also be that you want to take your career to the next level. But somehow, even thinking of that or imagining that, you get a knot in your stomach. That's also a trigger. And if you don't know how to tend to that, you will likely not level up to that next sort of out of my comfort zone place that you could take yourself. So the method remains the same: going in, holding the contracted place, putting your hand on it with so much love. I like to tell my clients and students, imagine a really scared child. Unless there's, you are a very damaged human being, the chances are that if you saw a very scared child, you would instinctively wrap your empathic arms around that child and say, I'm here. I've got you. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. You're safe now. That we can learn to do that with the fear inside of ourselves.
Mm. You just feel that experience that you just shared. It's so true. And we have to remember that it's available to us at all times with our source of love, God, universe, divine, whatever. I'm speaking to the women in my audience, whatever word speaks to you as your source of love, that's what we're talking about today. So, Maria, we're going to take our first break, and my friends, stay with us because we're going to dive deeper into this conversation. You can learn more about Maria at mariatoso.com. And of course, grab her book, Heal What Hurts: How to Heal Emotional Triggers. We'll be back in a moment.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Beautiful soul, are you craving a soul nurturing community of women interested in personal and spiritual development? You're not alone. When you step onto the virtual campus of Inspired Living University, a sacred community and curriculum for women on the path of self-discovery, you become a soulful part of our high vibe family of women, where you can grow, learn, and be reminded of your truth and power. Along with 2 mindset elevation circles each month with founder Linda Joy, you receive on-demand access to a sacred curriculum that includes a library of personal and spiritual development classes led by leading luminaries on topics that support you in living your most magical and intentional life. These high-value master classes are just the beginning of your transformational journey. Step into the circle today at inspiredlivinmuniversity.com/sacred-invite.
Consistently attract soulmate clients, begin showing up on brand, monetizing on your calling. Welcome all spiritual coaches, leaders, healers, light workers, and practitioners to a show that turns you on in your business and amplifies your magnetism. I'm host, catalyst, and spiritual business coach Rosalind Fung, and I'm here to journey with you into the juicy and help you discover where the real gaps are. Ignite your mindset and soul with strategies and systems as each episode takes you to the sweet spot that activates your soulgasmic business by tuning in on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Mountain. Join me for your light language activation, and let's magnetize and monetize.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. With me today is author, yoga teacher, trainer, somatic healing coach, and the author of Heal What Hurts: How to Heal Emotional Triggers. So you just talked about the 3 outs: lashing out, numbing out, checking out. One of the things you also mentioned in conversation is about energy, right? So how do unhealed experiences become these energetic knots that create our negative patterns that, we think are just part of who we are, but they're unconsciously running the show.
Right. So in my experience and working with, really hundreds of clients and students and myself first and foremost, when I am triggered, when I feel a contraction somewhere in my body, my solar plexus, my heart, my throat, And I go to that place and stay with that place. And I try my best not to go into the thought world where stories about what someone else is doing wrong will kind of take over. When I can keep releasing that and just being with the felt sensation, the contracted energy, and hold it, more often than not, memories kind of waft or poof poof out of that place, because this sheer act of I'm here and I'm holding that, it starts to release and relax a little bit. And very often, and I will prompt my clients with questions like, what does this remind you of? When is the first time you remember having this feeling? How old is this? And it's always much older than the new boyfriend you met 3 weeks ago. And when you start to feel those memories, there's 95% of the time, I would say, I hear memories from very early childhood about something that mom or dad did or didn't do at a very young age. And the feelings are so similar. And it's almost like you've managed through that triggered energy inside to call in a very similar dynamic constellation, even though you're now an adult and this is, the new boyfriend you met 3 weeks ago. Somehow that's a stand-in person for something unresolved that happened to you when you were really little. And just like any sensitive being contracts in the face of something that makes us feel like we're not loved, we're not safe, we don't belong, if that contraction is not released, it sits there. And it can sit there for a really long time. I had a client in her 80s that had a trigger come up on a Christmas Eve with a friend. And when she explored it, it was from when she was 5 years old. And her mom was yelling at her in the kitchen. So if you have a kid that is experiencing something traumatic, which for any kid is traumatic not to feel loved, safe, and like you belong. It's really that simple. And if that kid is not held and allowed and shown how to release it, then it sits there like a programming, like a pattern that is bound to repeat itself time and again. And that's, I think, why most of my clients are, people that are, mature, I would say, because at some point it becomes evident that there's a repeated experience, that this is not a one-off bad boyfriend or bad job setting. This same feeling keeps arising. And at some point you have to recognize there's something in me that calls in this experience. Now, if that same little kid that experienced that initial traumatic experience had been tended to, said, tell me about it. You're scared. I'm right here. I'm going to hold you. And had learned how to relax somatically deep inside, then that kid would not have continued to pull that experience in, because the contracted energy would have softened and flowed through. You can think of emotions as energy in motion. And you can think of these contracted triggers as frozen emotion. And then you can think of the love, the warmth, the empathy of our presence as the sun that melts the frozen energy. Now, if something has been frozen for decades, it's not going to be enough to hold it for 5 minutes. You're going to melt a layer off of it. There might be some tears. And now there's going to be a little bit less of a charge. Maybe the out you have next time won't be a bottle of wine, it'll be a glass of wine, or the text you send that you shouldn't have will be shorter or a little less dramatic. But it will probably take more holding, more loving, more I'm here. But over time, guaranteed, I've seen it so many times, that charge, that level of intense contraction softens and releases like a little fist that slowly opens. And then there is less calling in that bad experience, and there's less out when it does happen. That's the process I'm witnessing.
Powerful, isn't it? I love that you said you have some mature um, clients, because I think there's a mindset out there that it's too late to change. It's too late to heal. This is how I've been for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. And so when you shared that, I was like, what a sacred gift they're giving themselves to be willing to look at the triggers, the traumas. I think that's such a powerful moment.
Hmm. Yeah, and I would say in many cases, if you spend your, your middle years raising kids and focusing on, bringing home the bacon, that you don't even have time to look up and realize what you're doing. The outs may be so habitual. You could be in a semi-addictive pattern of something as benign as, wine or something every night, so that you don't even have time to recognize it. And then when the kids leave and things slow down, then there's suddenly room to look at this inner house, you could say, this inner castle, and notice, wow, there's something here for me to look at. So I think there's like these distinct phases of life, and more often than not, I see people be more ready to do this inner work a little later in life.
Yeah, I that resonates. I mean, because a lot of my clients are midlife women, and as you said, they're at that new chapter where they're not outward focused on all their responsibilities. They have a little more freedom in their consciousness, in their daily life, and that, most of them that are in my circle anyway want to dive deeper into the spiritual mindset tools.
Hmm.
So you talk a lot about God, and in your book, you talk about the divine and the importance of invoking the divine when working with emotional pain.
Hmm.
So, and you also touched a little bit about why simply sitting with our pain is often too difficult. So the
Hmm.
question is, how does inviting divine loving presence actually like shift the process?
I think that's where the magic comes in, Linda. And I can only say that I read, like Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, which is genius and it has inspired me a lot. But in my mind, he makes it sound like you simply need to be present. And I think that's true, you do. But for me, the pain that I was meeting, the level of contraction was too awful, and it was spontaneous. Now, I've always had a relationship with God since I was a little kid. So at some point, meeting that, um, I spontaneously started praying. God, I am so scared. This feels so awful. Please come and be with me. Help me hold it. Help me embrace this with your light. Fill me with your peace. Let the Holy Spirit envelop me and be with me. Like, even as I say that, just to kind of demonstrate to you, my body softens. And I just started doing that more and more. And when I was working with clients, I had to be a little careful, because there's so many ways of addressing the divine, or, someone may be a declared atheist. But you know what? Then I would say, let the power of love fill me now. Let the power of love envelop this pain inside. So, we don't want to get stuck on the verbiage. Um, but I just know, like I know, and I can't necessarily tell you the metaphysical reason why it works, but I believe and have felt in myself and seen in others that when you call upon whatever you call the divine, something bigger than you on the personality level could ever achieve just happens. You open up to the greater loving presence that I believe is always there for us, but when we contract into pain, we just cannot see it and feel it and know it. So it's also about, I'm running an online Heal What Hurts group, and we're at the phase in that group right now where we sort of promise ourselves to say these prayers even when we're really upset and we don't believe it works. We absolutely, in that moment, we can be so contracted that we don't believe anything but one of our outs will work, that we give ourselves just minutes to sit and say, please, divine light, fill me, hold these places inside of me that hurt so much. And we can play with, okay, I'll do that for 1 minute and then I'll go to my out. Okay, I'll do it for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and it just works. This is where in yoga we have a principle, Ishvara Pranidhana, which is surrender to God. It is that moment of surrender to the divine, to God, and that's the big shift. And then you start walking with God, because once you start to notice that that actually works when you're super scared and anxious, then it's like, well, why wouldn't I all the time ask the divine God to hold me and be with me? And like, why would I ever let that go? And as you stay in that state more, you stay a little more expanded, you're also less likely to become contracted then. So that is where the real healing lies. But we have to speak to our intellect to some degree because that's where we so operate in our society.
It's so
But
true.
mhm,
That
yeah.
is so true. And I love that you shared about it doesn't matter what we all use different words to divide for our source of love. So for all our listeners, if God doesn't resonate, use divine. So whatever it is for you. But I love that you clarify that. I tell all my clients, whatever your source of love is, that's who you call in. That's who you allow to love and support you. We're going to take our final break, and we come back. I want to talk about how we can support one another's healing by bringing attention to the body. So we'll be back for our last segment, my friends, for our next segment. And you are listening to Inspired Conversations. I invite you to visit Maria at mariatoso.com. Grab a copy of her book, Heal What Hurts, How to Heal Emotional Triggers. We'll be back in a moment.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Are you feeling called to shift your mindset, clear limiting beliefs, and enhance your overall well-being? Shiftology is your answer. Known as the intuitive truth detective, Terry Wildeman helps clients release stress, clear internal blocks, and make confident, values-driven decisions so they can thrive personally and professionally. As a leadership and executive coach, speaker, author, and intuitive guide with over 40 years of experience, she's the founder of Intuitive Leadership and creator of Shiftology, including the Shiftology Success System, a set of interactive tools that blend leadership strategy, mindset work, and intuitive insight to create meaningful, lasting transformation. And she's the host of the Shiftology Live podcast. Terry's Shiftology process powers her Unlock the Power in You programs, webinars, and courses. Learn more at intuitiveleadership.com. There is a softer way to live. In a world that moves fast and asks us to do the same, it takes courage to slow down, to pause, to breathe, to remember your natural rhythm. Jessica Bain Robert is a professor of mindfulness at Clark University and the founder of the Barred Owl Retreat in central Massachusetts. With over 20 years of experience, she has honed her gifts to become a transformational mindfulness coach, sound healer, forest bathing guide, NLP coach, writer, and speaker. Through online offerings and in-person sound baths, workshops, and retreats, she supports women in navigating transition, reconnecting with their inner wisdom, and creating lives fueled by clarity, purpose, and peace. Download your Mindful Awakening, guided visualizations, and journal prompts for daily peace and clarity gift set at barredowlretreat.com and learn more about Jessica's soulful offerings.
If I could be you,
and you could be me for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. With me today is Maria Toso, yoga teacher, trainer, somatic healing coach, and author of Heal What Hurts. So, in the book you talk about becoming a Heal What Hurts friend. And when I saw that, I'm like, ooh, I like that. So how can we support one another's healing by bringing attention to the body instead of feeding the story or reinforcing the victim narrative?
Yes, I love that so much. And What we do the moment we're in pain, we very quickly come up with a story about what is happening. And it's usually one, when we're contracted, is one of being victimized in some way. And then we call a friend, and the typical way we do this, especially among women, I don't know if men do this as much as we do, but we'll immediately jump in and protect the victim, our friend, and start taking aim at the villain who's making her feel this way. Now, what I'm suggesting in the book and what I am doing much, much more as a friend and certainly as a coach is kind of ignore the story. Like the story is just the messenger. It's like the symptom of a contracted place in the body. So gently, gently ask the friend, I'm going to sit here with you as you feel this. I can feel you're really upset. I'm going to be right here with you and breathe deeply with you. And maybe we can notice together, where's this showing up in your body? And when I do that, both as a coach, but also if I'm doing this for with a friend or a family member, I tend to feel it in my own body because I've done so much work to feel everything in my body that the moment I sit with someone who is in pain, I'm so in resonance that we're actually both feeling that pit in our stomach now. So I feel that. And do you feel it in your stomach? Yeah, I feel it here. Let's just both put a hand right there and breathe into that place. And in my experience, the anger and the urge to lash out, numb out, check out becomes a sadness instead. There's sadness underneath all that outing, right? And in that moment, when we bring loving presence and awareness to that inner place, now our friend is crying because the guy who didn't text back or did the thing reminds her of the time her parents just weren't there for her at a critical time when she was young. And now we get to grieve that out and hold that. And then every time I've done this with both friends and clients, at the end of that process, if you ask, how bad is it now when you think of that text that you got or didn't get, the thing, the incident, the trigger? It's always much, 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 much less. I mean, I have multiple stories in the book, but I have many, many more I could share. But they all have the same in common, that after sitting in true empathy and loving presence with a friend or a coach, at the end of that, it's like, yeah, it's a bummer that she did that, but it's not the end of the world. I'm not threatened on my survival anymore. And I don't need probably the out anymore. I don't actually have to send that text. Yeah, I don't really need to eat that pint of ice cream. That's what tends to happen. So all those addictive patterns that are so often part of, all of us when we get emotionally upset, it's not that we shame ourselves into not doing the addiction. I mean, there are times when you have to address an addiction. Obviously, it can be life-threatening. But just the little things we do that we kind of know are compulsive because we're trying not to feel. It's if we give what the body really wants in that moment, which is loving presence, the moment you get that loving presence, the pseudo loving presence, the ice cream, the cocktail, just holds less appeal. It's not even that we're disciplining ourselves not to have it. It's like we don't really want it because now we have God's love inside instead.
Powerful. I have a question. When you call that friend, it sounds as if it's almost like a soul agreement between you two. So it's like a previous conversation happens. And what do? Do you say, listen, I would love for us to be our support person so that they can hold space for you? Like, is it a conversation? So listen, when I call you when I'm hurting, here's how I'd like you to handle it and not feed my drama and story and trauma. How did you create that in that friend that you call?
Yes, it's absolutely a prior agreement, and it requires someone else that is also doing this work. So my vision is that, partners, romantic, good friends would together study the Heal What Hurts book or method and decide that's how I'm going to be there for you. And the gossiping and the more lashing out and more numbing out, let's go to the bar, we're going to take a break from that, and we're simply going to be there for each other in this way. I'm here. I feel you. What's really going on in your body? And it's not easy, because when you are contracted and upset, you can start lashing out at the person who says, why don't you feel your body? So I think the prerequisite for entering into that kind of an agreement with someone is it's two people who do daily practices, and that's step 1 and step 2 in the Heal What Hurts book, is becoming more aware of the breath, deeper breath, fuller breath, and more aware of what's going on in the body, scanning the body, noticing what's in the body. Because if you don't have that as I would say, daily practice to some degree, you're not going to have access to that as your roadmap when you are triggered. You're going to be so contracted. The last place you want to go is inside the body. But I believe that this is something we can do more of. I do it. I have 2 friends that I can do this with, and there are even times now, even though I wrote this book, where I get into a little bit of lashing out, and my friend will mirror back, sounds like you're lashing out a little bit. So if you can start to be good at recognizing the 3 outs and mirror back to your friend, your partner, um, are we moving a little bit into that? Are you willing to go in instead? And that's the practice. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy, because this is not what we learn as kids. As kids, we often learn, if you're upset, yes, you can have a lollipop. Yes, you can sit in front of a video or something. um, Kids don't have to get much beyond toddlerhood, and maybe even sooner, before we start really teaching them how to out, instead of how to come in and be held, and be able to hold yourself through prayer. That's also something that's somewhat lost, right?
Yeah. I mean, everything that you're sharing is really speaking to me. And I love the idea of having that soul connection with someone, because I bet the moment they hold space for you, it brings you right back into your truth and out of that energy of the trigger. It's almost like it's a mirror to remind you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it felt like as you were sharing it. So
Yeah.
that's a powerful process. So you're teaching, like, you have a somatic healing coach. So throughout the book, you're sharing so much wisdom of practices that they can use. And
Mm-hmm.
when we come back from our final break, I would love to dive into sharing some of those practices that listeners can try right away when they feel triggered. So we're going to take our last break,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll be back and dive in even deeper than everything Maria has been sharing. You can learn more at mariatoso.com. Grab a copy of her book, Heal What Hurts: How to Heal Emotional Triggers. And we'll be right back.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Times Radio. IOM FM.
Your worth is not determined by the number on the scale. You are enough right now, exactly as you are. If you're like many midlife women, you've thought, if I could just reach my ideal weight, I'd be so much happier. But the truth is, what we're really craving is our own love and acceptance. And Sarah Haas is that guide for your journey. Sarah is a women's weight release expert and body love coach, and walks alongside midlife women ready to say yes to self-care, self-compassion, and body love, so they can become the healthy, vibrant, and unapologetically confident women they're here to be. Her holistic approach integrates nutrition, body movement, and self-care to nurture body, mind, and spirit. Visit sarahhaaswellness.com for supportive resources, programs, and more for midlife women ready to elevate their health. Did you know that creativity is a spiritual practice and midlife is a renaissance and are an opportunity to weave wholeness, wonder, and wild wisdom into everyday life? Dr. Minette Riordan is a soul story guide, expressive arts facilitator, and the founder of the Sisterhood of Wisdom and Wonder. A lifelong creative and spiritual seeker, she helps midlife women reclaim their voice, purpose, and passion through storytelling, myth, and sacred self-expression. Minette is the creator of the Midlife Archetype Quiz and the transformational mythical makeover experiences, blending deep psychology, expressive arts, and soulful play. She brings warmth, wisdom, and structure to the wild inner work of midlife transformation. Through retreats, courses, and her vibrant community, she invites women to remember who they are, one brushstroke, one story, one threshold at a time. Learn more at MinetteRiordan.com.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Free your mind with Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations. Thanks for circling up with myself and my guest, Maria Toso. So you've shared so much wisdom here, so many insights, so many strategies and of how we can rise above our triggers and our traumas. If someone's listening right now, and life is kind of triggering right now for so many people, what is a simple practice from your book that they could try right away?
I love that. I would say the first thing I would ask you to do is close your eyes and then become more aware of the breath and quiet the mind. And simply by noticing the sensation of breath flowing in through your nose, the sensation in the back of the throat as you breathe, and the release and softening with the exhale. Let the belly soften. Let the chest soften. And as you exhale a little longer, there's more room for the next inhale breath as well. Now, sometimes simply focusing more on the breath will give you this urge to yawn. And that's one of the almost shamanic ways that we release tension. So absolutely go with it if you get that urge to yawn or sigh. See if you can even hear your own breath. A subtle sound as breath enters, and the sound when your breath leaves the body. And even if you just have done this for minutes, your mind has probably quieted down. You're more present inside your own energy field, drawing your awareness more toward the center of your inner being. And now notice your face. Allow the area around the forehead and eyes to soften. The whole of the scalp, cheeks, lips, all the way into the throat, your neck. Let the shoulders soften. Feel and sense the arms, upper arms, elbows, forearms, and hands. Notice the energy in your hands, your fingertips, down through your chest, the space of the heart, the stomach softening, solar plexus, lower abdomen, the back side of the body, upper back, mid back, lower back. Your buttocks and hips and thighs, the lower legs. Extending awareness all the way into the heels, soles of the feet, tops of the feet, all 10 toes, all 10 fingers. The whole energy field of the body illuminated by your loving presence. And let that presence speak to the body, especially the places that feel a little contracted still. I love you. I am here. I am with you. I am in you. I've got you. And now feel any place in the body that is particularly contracted. A little knot somewhere. Scan down through the throat, the heart, stomach, solar plexus, lower belly. And notice if there's a place here that feels a little tight. And you might even bring your hand to that place. Let the hand radiate love straight into this area. And again, say, I love you. I'm here. I notice this. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to hold you. If there's anything you want to share with me, show me what this is about. If there's something that arises in pictures, images, words, I'm here to hold that and be with that and witness that. And if you simply need to be held and loved quietly, warmly, reassuringly, I'm here for that too. And there is no end point to that holding. I'm with you. I've got you. And notice how the energy in the body responds to your words, your energy, your presence, your willingness to be with something uncomfortable inside. Notice if you feel like yawning or breathing deeply. And then say to this place inside, I'll be back as often as you need. I'm going to hold you through whatever is up. Notice this place, be with this place. And now simply say, divine love, divine presence, God, find your word. Bring more love, more presence to this place, surrounded with light, penetrated with light. Feel every little molecule of this area on the physical level filling with light, radiating light into this place. Hold this place with me and for me, dear God, dear divine. Envelop it like a balm of loving presence. And leaving that balm in place as love medicine right on the place that feels contracted and scared. Feel the warmth permeating this area now. And now staying conscious of this area now being worked on ever more deeply by this loving presence, expand your awareness back into the whole body. Still feeling the arms and the legs, the hands and the feet, the whole of the torso, head, neck, and shoulders. The whole energy field of the body illuminated and bright. And in conclusion, for now, say, I will be back. I am here with you. I apologize for all the times I didn't come to you when you needed me. That stops today. From now on, I am with you. You can call upon me anytime. Take a deep breath in. Feel the whole of the body. Releasing tension. Open the eyes and feel your body more at ease, more at peace. I am here. So that's a gentle, relatively fast little check-in with the body. And my message is to do that often. And there's so many opportunities throughout the day to give yourself that kind of loving presence. You can use my words from the book. I have prayers with every step that you could simply use. You can record them and listen to them, or come up with your own. We all know what words convey love and presence and unconditional, I'm here for you. And we can learn to speak those words, say them out loud, think them inside, write them in a journal. So we become used to speaking to ourselves that way. Then any other way of speaking to ourselves harshly, trying to shame us, which is a big part of being triggered. There can often be shame associated with it. All of that is going to sound off, like, no, I'm not putting that vibration in my body. My body is going to be bathed in unconditional love for as many minutes as I can possibly muster every day for the rest of my life. So there you go.
I have to tell you, I am like so in the zone right now. It brings you right into your heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's so grounding, such a beautiful gift you just led us through, my friend.
Mm.
I just want to take a moment to just come back in. What a soulful gift for all of us. And I love that it's something we can do no matter where we are, sitting in a car,
Mm-hmm.
pulled over, of course.
Mm-hmm.
We can just connect with God anytime we want.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful, such a beautiful gift. And we have about 2 minutes left. So I want to ask you, just share quickly a couple of the practices that they'll find in Heal What Hurts.
So we'll also learn in the book how to question once we've gotten into the story, which for a while we'll still drop into that story. And if we can recognize that whatever our story is just that, it's a story, we can use that story to tease out the trigger. So if we say they don't like me and they never invite me, then we say that out loud. This is my story. But rather than taking off and spiraling with that story, we notice in the body when I say the words, they don't like me, they don't invite me, then where is it in the body? And then work with what is going on in the body. Like there's a whole chapter dedicated just to, you could say, wrestle the ego-based story, so that as we loosen our attachment to the victim story, step by step, by investigating what the story is that we're telling ourselves, we can, instead of hating on the story or being attached to the story, we can say the story simply points to where the contracted energy is in the body, and that's where the work lies. That's where the love has to be applied. Then the story loses its power, and we don't have to keep re-experiencing that same sad story over and over again.
Beautiful, my friend, beautiful. And I want to invite everyone, please visit Maria at mariatoso.com. Why do you want to keep struggling when there's tools and practices that can help bring you peace, calm your anxiety, and remind you of the truth of who you are? So I invite you to grab a copy of Heal What Hurts, How to Heal Emotional Triggers, published from my friends at Llewellyn Worldwide. And it will show you how meeting emotional pain with loving presence will gradually dissolve fear-based contractions and deepen your inherent connection to the divine, which, by doing so, restores your vitality and helps you manifest as more authentic relationships. Maria, I am so grateful for this conversation. I am so like in my heart right now. It was such a beautiful practice that you just walked us through. So again, thank you for that gift, my friend.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for promoting all these beautiful healers through your podcast. That is such a gift.
You're welcome, my friend. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.